You said you've done 7 of these?
Yeah. Yeah, still a beginner. Still, it's still a little weird. But maybe I'll get really good at it and be like Tom Brokaw or something. I don't know.
Next Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much that dude makes on just his podcast.
A lot, I think.
Isn't he worth like $150 million or something like that?
I don't know. I know his contract was public for $100 million for Spotify.
Was it?
I think that's what it was. It's a lot of money for talking.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, though.
You get some interesting people on there, though. Like, and he's not afraid to bring on different kinds of people to have all kinds of different opinions about things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting. I like watching it. And I like the long form of it.
Like
the curiosity and long form of it. Like, they're not trying to pack some thing into 5 minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you get to go along for the ride, which sometimes is funny and sometimes it's serious. Sometimes it's philosophical. I don't know. What do you like? What kind of guests did he have that do you like the best?
I really like the Elon Musk episode.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that guy, but from a intelligence standpoint, like, the dude's off the charts.
Yeah, well, he's useful, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He does really interesting shit. I don't know why people don't like him. But, well, most people are probably just reacting to their own judgments. I don't think anybody even knows him. Really.
Not as a person.
Right, yeah.
Like, you don't see any of that stuff. I know he's got, like, a bunch of kids. Like, 9 kids or 7 kids or 8 kids or something.
Really?
Crazy. Yeah.
That's nuts. Well, he could probably get the child support taken care of.
Imagine being able to say Elon Musk is my dad. Like,
it'd be weird. It would be weird.
he, like, who comes up with the idea? I want to send rockets into space and go to Mars, and then actually go do it.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where he's either going to be called the smartest man ever or the biggest dumbass. I'm sure in the beginning, just like with my stuff and your stuff and everybody's stuff, there's plenty of people that said you're just a dumbass.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What a terrible idea.
I mean, the people that he looked up to, from what I've read and seen, basically told him that. Like, his idols, like his heroes, basically told him he's an idiot for doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And they don't agree with it.
I'm glad he doesn't listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, I guess. Really. Mm-mm. There's always naysayers in every damn thing, especially if it's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole weird psychological thing that's happening with those people. That's what I remember. I'm like, okay, you have an opinion. That has something to do with what's happening inside of your head. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah, that's a internal issue that you have with yourself.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times it's from people that can't offer a useful criticism. They're not from a place of, like, experience or success in that area.
Yep.
And I'm like, am I supposed to just believe that your speculations about something you know nothing about is worth listening to?
Right.
When it isn't even formed in a logical argument, like, you're just talking shit.
Yeah, it's not even accurate.
I'm not going to listen to that.
I've been through a lot of that with, like, doing the recruiting thing and learning how to trade the markets. Like, I had so many people go,
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not going to work. But because on paper it sounds easy, but actually doing and going through the process is super hard.
I bet. I'd like to know more about it. I don't understand anything about it. I remember being a kid, I heard people referred to as headhunters and stuff. That's about the limit of my knowledge of what you do.
Yep. It's, I consider myself a headhunter. We work with very specific types of companies, mainly in the industrial automation and fluid power industry. So if it moves and does work in, like, an industrial setting, it's probably up our alley.
Like heavy machinery.
Heavy machinery. Yep. So either outside, like it has wheels and an engine, or it's inside of, like, a manufacturing facility doing some type of a process.
And that's people that operate those things.
People that design.
Oh, okay.
Either design it or sell it, or maintain it.
I
We
see.
don't really get in. So the people that operate it are considered like production employees, like people that work at Chrysler. They're using the machinery to get the job done. What we do is we actually place the engineers to actually design the machinery.
I see.
So,
I see. So they design it to where it's easier to run. Like you don't have to be, you could teach a regular Joe how to run it, those machines.
oh yeah, you could
Okay.
for sure.
I see.
But like from an engineering standpoint, like Chrysler, like the machinery that Chrysler owns, they probably bought it from some company that manufactures that machinery. And those machines have pneumatics on them. They have hydraulics. They have electrical controls on them.
That's fascinating.
So
And those are pretty high paid positions that you recruit for.
yeah, anywhere an entry level engineer might make anywhere from 50 to 70 grand a year, so not that much. But like a specialized engineer, like kind of what we focus on, I mean, you can make 120 to 130, 140.
It's a pretty good job.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's kind of, we work all over North America, East Coast to West Coast, and it doesn't really matter where you're at in the country. Those job salaries or those salary ranges are usually pretty accurate no matter where you're at, and the cost of living.
That's interesting.
So, like,
I wouldn't have guessed that.
yeah, in our industry anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know about other industries like IT. I don't know
Sure.
how those salary ranges work. But as far as industrial manufacturing, like you would think if you went to California and you're going to be a mechanical engineer, you would make, 30% more than what somebody would make in the Midwest, and it's not true.
Huh. Well, that's a good argument for being in that field, but living in a lower cost area, man. That's like doubling your income.
Oh yeah, that's why I stay in Kokomo.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Really, the business stuff I do here, I could never afford to do on the West Coast.
Never.
It's insane.
I had an opportunity to interview with SpaceX about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. They had a recruiting job open out in California.
Okay.
And they found me on LinkedIn, shot me a message, and I was 60-40 with it, like 60% sure I wasn't going to take this job because I'd have to quit my entrepreneurial journey, go back to the golden handcuffs.
So you were going to recruit as an employee
for SpaceX.
Ooh.
So they flew me out, and to me it was just like a free vacation. I got to meet their team, got to see the facility.
Yeah.
Like Elon Musk was in the building that day. I didn't get to
dope.
see him, but he was there. And long story short, it didn't work. Like mutually didn't work out. Like,
Sure.
And they're going to pay me like $105,000 a year. So, and the girlfriend, was really excited because she's got a biology degree in the marine mammal, so she could find something out there.
Sure.
So we were looking at real estate, something equivalent to what we have now out there. I'm like, I'm going to spend a third of my paycheck on just rent. Like it's like $3,500 a month. I'm like, and then spending at least an hour both ways on the 405 to go to work, and then work 60 to 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's like that shiny 6-figure salary doesn't look so shiny anymore when you start taking in the cost of living.
That's true. And that commute, man, that traffic out there
It is insane.
Yeah. It's weird when you're from here because we think, like, we drive a long time sometimes to do things because stuff's pretty spread out, but we cover a lot of ground. If you drive for 4 hours from here, you can cover the state.
Oh, yeah.
I could be in LA and drive for 4 hours and get like 10 feet.
Yeah. You're on the other side of town by that point.
Makes you want to kill yourself. Like, God, get me out of this car. But you deal with engineers. Obviously, that's not all you recruit, but you deal with engineers. How is that? They're an interesting breed of people.
They are. They're very literal.
I could see why they would be a good candidate to be recruited and to need recruiting, because they're not always like great salesmen and not great at selling themselves, probably.
Not a lot of times. There are some job mixtures in there that are engineering roles that are kind of customer facing, and you have to have that the ability to talk. So like an applications engineer or a sales engineer, or even an outside sales guy who's got an engineering background to be a technical sales guy.
Okay. So do you like help them through, like, because it works for you if they get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find yourself being motivated to be like, well, let me help you update your resume. Let me tell you some stuff to say, like stuff not to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There is a coaching aspect to what we do.
Okay.
Because you're right. Because he may be an amazing engineer, but he can't write a resume for shit. That's not what he's focused at.
Right.
Or he might not be able to talk. Like I just had an engineer. He in his final interview, he started bad mouthing his previous employer, saying bad things about him. And
I never hire anyone who does that.
Yep.
I don't.
And then he started playing on his phone too much.
Yeah.
During the interview, and that's what killed it for me. Good engineer, could have did the job just fine, but those two things turned off the hiring managers.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah, they don't. People in the STEM fields, they don't deal with those things a lot. Mm-mm. That's not where their expertise lies.
Nope. So yeah, we do a lot of coaching with them. Like, I would say 90% of people can handle themselves at that level.
Okay.
Because they've had a few jobs under the belt, they know the process. They know what to expect in an interview. But every once in a while, you get somebody that you really need to like sit down and be like, look, don't say this, don't say that.
Put a shirt on.
Yeah. Take a shower that day. Like,
yeah, and that's probably the best engineer.
Yeah.
The person who cares the least about the other shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's such a weird thing. It's weird in general because I hire people, for my businesses, and I come from the perspective. The whole point of me interviewing him, well, my number one point is to just weed out people that shouldn't even be considered for the job. Mm-hmm. And then my second goal is to try to discover from somebody in a handful of minutes, like, how they're going to perform over years.
Right.
It's like, it's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's tricks you get, but you have to rely on people's responses to tell you how they're going to be.
I find that people that can talk, like people that can just carry an intelligent conversation, usually turn out to be pretty good employees, regardless of what the industry is.
Really?
I don't know what it is, but I talk to a lot of people all over the country, and like just being able to talk like opens so many doors for people.
Yeah. What do you mean by being able to talk? Like, you mean like being articulate?
Articulate and having
coherence and logic and shit. You're not just like, not somebody with just a gabby.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Like, there'll be times where you talk to somebody on the phone and it's like you're putting in so much effort to get them to say something other than yes or no to your questions. It's like you ask them a question. Like I try to always ask open-ended questions where you can't answer with a yes or a no. So like questions that start with how, like, how would you go about doing X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
And the people that give you like one-word answers or like one sentence and stop, it's like, and you have to work to get them to speak. I worry about those people in interviews.
Yeah. Yeah. That was your chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's weird because I'm an introvert by nature.
Yeah, me too.
I really beat it out of myself. I took sales roles and put myself in positions to where I had to learn a different way. But I know, like, my natural inclination is to just be accurate and concise, and I never feel like talking about myself.
Really?
And I don't like hearing myself talk necessarily. I'm not saying those things are good or bad, but it's the opposite of extroverts. So, like, unless somebody tries, like, my natural inclination is to not disclose very much. But then I had to learn, a long time ago, I'm going to an interview, like, this whole thing is to try to get me to disclose why I could be useful and valuable. So I need to get on a soapbox here. You know what I mean?
Yep. And it's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was hard for me. Feels weird. It feels weird to be like, I'm so awesome at this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to say that. I just want to show you. You know what I mean? But you have to in an interview. That's a weird thing.
Yeah. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of people, and the ones I get most, like, the best way that I've found to get people talking is to get them to talk about themselves. Because the majority of people, like, you're the exception to the rule. Most people love talking about themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Why do you think that is? Well, for sure they know something about the topic.
Yeah,
Right?
I think it makes people feel better about themselves and their accomplishments if someone's like showing a genuine interest in you. Like, tell me what you've done. Oh, how did
Yeah.
you do that? Well, what made you want to go do that? Like,
Yeah, I agree with that.
so what I'm I don't interview candidates. I have conversations with candidates. It's never like this like this layout or this system I have, like you would see from a hiring manager, where they're doing like star style interview questions, like, tell me a time about where you helped someone who was down. Like,
Yeah.
it's never that kind of shit.
Right. It's not a personality test.
Right. Right. I'll let the company deal with all that.
Right.
I'm just making sure that you're intelligent, you can do what you say, and you're in the price range.
Yeah, because
Like-
it reflects on your reputation as a recruiter. If you send
absolutely.
the quality of people you send to your, because your clients are the companies,
Yep.
not typically the employees.
Right. Companies are paying us, candidates do not.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's wild. So what? You have your thumb on the heartbeat of like the job markets and the economies and stuff. It's probably how it led you into getting into trading so much.
It's not so much getting me into it, but it's helped me a lot with trading.
I see.
I got into trading about funny story. So 2016, I had an acquaintance at the time. He was doing this multi-level marketing company with Forex, like right before they all blew up, like before everybody started doing it. And this company actually had two professional traders that work for them that make all their calls. So basically, they had a trading copy platform. They would send you trades. You could take them on your own. You adjust your risk. They tell you when to get out. Like, it was completely legal, above board. And it worked for about 6 months. And once I saw that what the markets can actually do, like being able to learn technical analysis and kind of, I don't like the word predict, but kind of project where price might go, and because of all these reasons and why, that's what really got me into it and interested in it. And the company ended up tanking, but I ended up finding somebody who's been doing it for 20 years professionally, and started learning from them, because when I saw it, I was like, this is real. Like, there's people out there making money in the markets because they know what they're doing. Why can't that be me?
That's a great question to ask yourself. That's awesome.
So that's kind of how I got into it, and I've stuck with it ever since. Like, there's not a week. I probably spend, while I'm working doing recruiting, 20, 30, 40 hours a week, my charts are always up. I'm always looking at the markets. So to circle back around, yeah, it's nice to be able to talk to all these multi-million-dollar companies and look at their hiring needs and kind of what their future holds, and that can kind of tell you what the whole industrial manufacturing market's starting to do. Like, if they're starting to slow down and pull back and like ease on job positions, and you're watching the news and you're like watching unemployment rate start to rise, it's like, what's kind of going on here?
Right.
So it can kind of give you, it's just another indicator that I'm lucky to have because of just what I do.
Hell yeah, dude. That keeps you in one of the veins, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So what's interesting about I watch what you do with the trading and stuff. You always have like the most consistent, reliable, information, which I could tell is from a lot of technical work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't post, everything you post is pretty much anti-hype.
Yes.
There's no hype involved.
No.
It's like, what percentage of maybe this is going to happen?
Right. It's always about probabilities.
Yeah.
Because the market can do whatever it wants whenever it wants. So you just got to kind of calculate, by technical indicators, like, what are the probabilities of this dropping or what are the probabilities of this actually rising. So if it's like 70-30, 80-20 in favor, I'll take a trade for that.
Yeah.
But if it's like 50-50,
It's gambling at that
it's
point.
starting to get gambling, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem with most people is, I hate to say it, but most, like 95% of retail traders fail. And like the average account balance is like under $5,000. So these people are trying to make as much money as quickly as possible, or try to get rich off their $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, and they end up going broke because they follow everybody else on hyped up positions.
Yeah. That's so bad. Is it necessary, though, for other people to make money in the market? Do you think there has to be losers, right, basically? Because
Absolutely have to be.
you can't sell anything unless somebody buys it.
Right.
I always thought that was interesting, though. It's like people know how that works in life. They're like, oh, I don't want to buy a house when the values are up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they forget that.
When they go to the
When
market.
they go to the market, they're like, oh, everybody's buying these houses and they're so goddamn expensive,
Mhm.
so I'm going to buy one too.
Yep.
I'm like, hold on. That seems like a bad plan.
It's always the market is ran off fear and greed. Like that's when you're looking at a chart, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at emotional reactions in the market is what
Yeah.
you're looking at. So when fear is greatest, that's when you want to buy. When greed is greatest, that's when you want to sell.
That's my strategy with trading.
And it's a good strategy.
And luckily, I have you as a mentor for technicals, because I'm terrible at technicals. I don't have the time to learn that. But I like trading, and I've had good success with it, based off just the strategy of when I think a good company is their values dropped really, really far for like reasons that I can't quantify. It looks like a deal, and I buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wait.
Yep.
Until everybody changes their mind, and all of a sudden now it's a good one to buy, and then I sell it to them. Like, sure, you like it now? Here, you can have it for twice what I paid for it.
Yep.
That's my only strategy. It's not consistent, but it works. I don't know if I'm going to wait a month or 6 months or
Right.
like you do more of a regular. You're trying to get a certain percentage back in a month and in whatever, and you're trying to compound and
Yeah, I take whatever the market gives me. Like I'm a swing trader, which means you either hold a position for as little as a few days all the way up to several months. It just really depends on, the chart and the price action. Like sometimes, because you can't time the market. There's people out there that try to time the market. Like, August 3rd, it's going to bounce 30%. Like there's no way to know that. So you have to go by price. Like, what price are we at? Where did we come from? How fast did we fall from that price? Are we getting buyers in this level? Like, is price stalling out? Like,
and how much are people up or down that have them?
Right.
I always find that a useful thing to really dig into.
Yeah. And that's kind of how you get into like support and resistance and why it works. Is like because on the way down, you might have people buying that are losing, and then it goes against them. And then when price comes back to that same price, the bag holders just want to get out break even. So you have a bunch of people dumping at those certain price levels. And that's why price reverses.
That's so interesting.
So it's always, you always got to think opposite in the markets. Like when Tesla was like at $107, everybody's like, it's going to zero. It's going to $60.
Yeah, that's when I buy shit.
Yeah, that's when you buy it. When everybody's scared of it. And
Yeah, that seemed like a no-brainer. I just made a lot of money on my Tesla stock.
Yep.
It just seemed like a no-brainer. Like, you don't have to be really good at technicals to see that there was just a load of shit talking that was like unquantifiable as like as anything that actually had to do with bottom lines.
right. Yeah.
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 So the Tesla thing had nothing to do with bottom lines. It was just a whole bunch of negative hype and anti-Elon shit, but the stock tanked like half or something. I can't remember the specific number. I was like, well, maybe there's a reason I don't understand why the value should go down, but it should never have went down that much.
Yep.
Based on these reasons. Yes, obviously panic, so I bought a bunch of them. I was like, well, everything is pushing towards renewable energy and all this there's no way Tesla's not going to recover this value quickly.
Yeah.
Like, quickly in my perspective of time.
Yeah.
In less than 2 years. And it only took a couple of months.
Yep.
And then everybody's like, oh, I was wrong, you know. Stock's amazing. I'm going to buy it back.
And then they do the exact opposite. Then it rises 200%. Then it catches everybody's attention because it's on the news now. Tesla stock up 150% from its lows.
And then it pumps.
Yeah, and then everybody's like, oh, fuck, let's buy Tesla. And then usually when that happens, that's where institutions start to dump.
Yeah, well, that's where I dump.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. But people...
As soon as I see on like a Google News thing how good a stock is, I'm like, shit, do I have that one? I got to sell it. Quick.
I use some social sentiment indicators. There's a couple Facebook groups I use. Wall Street Bets, I'm sure you've heard of one.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah.
Wall Street Bets, and the other one's like Robinhood Trading Group.
Okay.
Between both of those groups, there's about 800,000 to 1 million members in both. So that's a good number of active users to use as a social gauge. So I will do my technical analysis on my chart, and then I will take that stock and just go search that stock name into these groups and see who's talking about it. Then I'll start reading the comments. And if most people are bullish, like if I'm trying to short, I'm looking for people that are very bullish. And if that's the consensus of the group, I know it's kind of confirmation that my short's going to work, because 95% of retail traders are wrong.
Okay, I see. It's like reverse psychology.
Right. It's
they're
an
going to
inverse
sell.
indicator.
And they don't have, they know they're wrong deep down on some level, so they don't have the cojones to hold.
Right. Yep.
As soon as they're down a little bit, it's fucking panic sell. I mean, it is fall off the cliff retail, especially in crypto. I know we're talking about stocks, but in crypto, just take that and imagine looking at it with a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
That's what crypto is.
Yeah, people let their emotions take over. Like, motion is so hard to control.
It
Like,
is.
In both directions. Like,
It
both
is.
in fear and in greed. Because you might be 100% up, but then you start looking, you're like, well, what if it goes 200 or 300? Like, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Like, no, take your money and get out. Like, the little transactions, the little trades that you win add up over time. Like, consistency is key.
Yeah.
Like, no one you might as well play the lottery, because the odds of you taking $1,000 to $1 million, like, very quickly, is probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
not without doing some major gambling.
That would mean you'd have to be so much better than a lot of people at it that you could take their money.
Right.
So ask yourself, am I better than 5,000 people? Can I take their money?
Yep.
And if the answer is, I'm not sure.
Yeah, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah. That's so true. That's a good one.
People marry investments too.
Yeah.
They get so hyped up about what they're in, and they start to believe in what they're in so much that they won't sell no matter
I've
what
seen
price.
that, yeah.
People that bought AMC.
They believe in it more than the CEO does.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. What are you doing?
Yeah. As the company's diluting shares, you have retail traders that are like, oh, this is great. I'm buying more cheap stock.
Yes. The CEO's like making, I don't know, what was it? The big shareholders of AMC made a fortune off that pump. Mm-hmm. And then they were the first ones to sell.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're the ones like, man, our company's like a dinosaur business plan. We're trying to figure out ways to keep it alive, and you assholes think we're going to the moon. Like, you can have my shares.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It happens all the time. So that's probably been the hardest thing to learn in trading, is just control your emotions. Be detached from the money.
That's so good.
And it's hard to do.
That's straight out of Stoic philosophy, Stoicism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. I love that. I use that for everything in life.
I do too. Trading and recruiting both have made me a very patient person. Like, give it time. Like, trust the process. Do the process. And you will succeed. Like,
that's great.
Nothing ever comes quickly.
Yeah, and time always gets rid of the fleeting emotional things you do. Because emotions, well, first of all, they're unconscious.
Right. Yep.
And most people think they would know if they have unconscious motivations. but it's literally unconscious. The whole point is you don't know it's a secret to you.
Right.
You know, and we all have them. And the way to win, like you said, the way to win against your unconscious motivations is time.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Let that shit settle out.
Yeah. I do that with transactions.
Mm-hmm.
I require 72 hours to make a transaction. It's really interesting because I'll give my permission to like buy it, whatever it is, but not today. In 72 hours.
Yeah.
So I've satisfied this emotional need I have to buy this thing.
Right.
Because I am giving myself permission to buy it. I'm going to buy that. If it's an investment or a thing or whatever. But I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to do it in 72 hours. And 72 hours comes around, I'm like, if I still want it.
Then you buy it.
Then I trust it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm like, I have no idea why I wanted to buy that.
Yep.
Then I know I just saved myself some trouble.
I do the same thing. Like, or even like, let's say you're arguing with your spouse and like she says something that pisses you off. Like, it's really something, like it's a skill set to be able not to immediately emotionally react.
Yeah.
And take the time to digest what just happened and like, you know, see both sides and then like come to a compromise, or, you know, maybe she's right or maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right, she's wrong. Like,
maybe I just flipped to wanting to be right.
Right.
Whether or not I am or not doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's true. That's a hard one though, man, with the dynamic of males and females, at least I've noticed, is like most of the time if I get upset, I know it's a bad idea to keep talking.
Yeah. Yep.
But she doesn't understand that I'm doing that for the both of us. Like, she's like, oh, I see. You're just not going to participate in this conversation. I'm like, I shouldn't. It's a bad idea for me to participate until I don't feel this way.
And these attributes that we're talking about, to me, life is sales. Everything is sales. Like, the whole talking less and listening more, that's a sales tactic. But it also works well in like relationships. Like, the more you listen and the less you talk, probably the better off you're going to be.
I see what you're saying. Like, the fundamental principles of being a good salesman are the same fundamental principles of like being a good person.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that. That's sort of like the free market of socialization.
Mm-hmm.
The market decides.
Yeah.
You know, these things will work for people.
It's getting back to the whole, like, whenever I have conversations with new people, I always flip the script and put it on them and get them talking about themselves. Because like I said earlier, everybody likes to talk about themselves. And the more people talk, the more you learn. Then you can come up with more questions to continue asking them things that keep the conversation going. And you can control the conversation that way.
That's true.
You can take it wherever you want to.
That's so true. I do that sometimes. There's one trick I have for people who have poor criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
I like criticism. I like it to be useful. If it's logical, that's even better. But people don't really study logic anymore, or rhetoric. So oftentimes their arguments are always going to be shit, even if they're right.
Right.
They're not articulating well why they're right. It doesn't work out, but they are right. So it can't. But anyway, the point is, I like to find useful criticism, and it's really difficult. A lot of people just, they have criticism just because they have an unwelcome feeling inside of their head about what you're doing or something. So I always say, like you said, I always listen to them. Like, I try to deeply understand what it is exactly they're upset about. And that on its own is powerful. Mm-hmm. People usually start turning around right away. They're like, something happens on the inside, like their whole narrative was based around the idea that I wouldn't give a shit.
Right.
And now that I clearly do give a shit, they're like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I do is I say, okay, well, you might be right. Let's say you are right. Well, what should I have done? And what should I do now? And then they have to become empathetic. They have to think about what it's like to be where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's hard for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, and that's my trick. Because then if they really think through, like, what was it like to be him, and what should he have done, and what should he do now, they can get a real good view of my position without me having to convince them of it.
Yep, I do the same thing. Like, I mean, we have a couple people that work with us, and they sometimes don't perform like they should, and sometimes it's projected as our fault. But when you have the conversation with them and you start asking them those kinds of questions, it's like, well, if the situation was flip flop, what would you have done? As the business owner, like the point of running a business is to make money, so everybody can make money. If the business doesn't exist, you don't exist. So,
yeah, that gets lost on employees pretty quick.
Yep, they think that the business is just always going to be there.
Yeah, that it owes them something,
right?
And sometimes they'll feel intrinsically valuable, like I deserve to get paid or whatever because I'm me. That's not true. Like, you have to create value in this company. That's what you get paid for.
Yep.
What you can do. Not because you are valuable as a human. You are valuable as a human. Existentially, I care about you.
But is that quantifiable?
Yeah, but I can't pay you for that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't create any income.
Right.
So show me with your hands is what I tell people.
Yeah, it's you get real serious when you sit them down and be like, look, we paid you this much money. Here's how much revenue you've generated. Like, you're not even paying for yourself. So how does that make you feel? Do you still have the entitled mindset that you do, knowing that you're not actually producing? Yeah, you're putting in the work. Yes, we're paying you for it. But at the end of the day, you're actually an expense or a cost to the business.
To a business which doesn't have emotions.
Right.
The business doesn't. Just has a bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with that? Like, getting people to take responsibility for that, because there's like this whole gentle parenting thing in the workplace happening now, where there's even shit all over LinkedIn and stuff where like you should how to accommodate all of your employees
and their feelings
in all of these different ways and stuff. And I don't have any problem with that. I believe in people. I'm a very empathetic person, and I care about people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I'm not super sensitive to them, because it doesn't help anybody if you just pretend like they're awesome when they suck.
Yeah.
What helps people is when you tell them, like, I believe in you. You could be awesome, but currently you suck.
Right.
You have to do something different. Nobody else is going to tell you because they want to be your friend. I'm not your friend. I'm your boss. It's my job to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make a change. And I think that is caring about people.
Yeah,
it's not caring about people to let them keep sucking.
No, you're not. Yeah, you're not
validating their excuses.
Right.
That doesn't help anybody.
Mm-mm. But it makes them feel better
for a minute.
A minute. But people are like really soft these days, like emotionally.
That's true.
They can't take constructive criticism very well, even if it comes off as genuine. It's like it either
that's a mistake too, isn't it?
It either depresses them or makes them worse. Like if you tell, like you said, if you tell, hey, I see your potential, but right now you're not doing that great. Like, some people, that might turn them off and they'll just quit.
Yeah, that happens.
You know what I mean?
But I count on that.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my managers this, because this was my experience working for other people before I did it for myself. Like, you have to have those conversations, and you're going to get a 50-50 reaction.
Mm-hmm.
50% of them will quit or get themselves fired in a few weeks because they don't care. The other 50% are going to become the best employees you've ever had.
Yep.
And you want that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As far as dealing with it, I mean, I always take the honest approach, like laying out the data, just being calm, not getting emotional, but like, here's the facts, here are the numbers. And then I get them to explain to me how they feel. Like, what do you think of yourself?
that's like an advantage in because you can quantify the value of somebody in dollars in your industry.
Yep.
That's not always so easy to do.
Right.
So that's
true.
that's an advantage.
Yeah, that is true.
That's really hard to argue with. Like, you know what I mean? That's an advantage.
Yeah, when you have solid data, it makes it easier. Like, if they want to go, and it's like, well, you're not really producing, so
You're going to save me money if you quit.
right.
So obviously you're here because I believe in you.
Mm-hmm. So how do we get you to get you where you want to go? Because I know you want to succeed in this.
Right.
You know, you're making 50 grand now. You want to make 100. So how do we get there? This is here's what you're at. Here's what you want, and this is what you're doing.
Yeah, we have the same goal.
Right.
That's what employees forget. They're always like, well, I feel like I should get paid more. I'm like, so do I.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I pay you out of the business checking account. You put a bunch more money in there, and I'll pay you more.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it comes from. You know, and I always tell people that, like, I want to pay everybody that works for me $1 million.
Yeah.
Because I think they're all worth it. If they would just let me. If you would just put that money in the business's account, I'll pay you that.
But most people have the employee mentality.
Yeah.
Like, they can only see a week ahead in their vision, in their goals. It's like, I worked last week, my paycheck's coming Friday. Like, that's where their headlights shut off. About a week or two out.
And that's tough, because if you don't have the space to put in the wood before you get the heat, I think is the expression.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, a lot of them kind of get forced into sitting in front of the furnace asking for the heat and then promising to bring the wood later.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the idea.
And everything takes time to build. Like, shit doesn't happen in a year, man. Like,
Right.
Like, you should plan things ahead like 3 to 5 years. Like, that's whenever we try to hire a recruiter, because we've had a lot of people try to do recruiting, and almost all of them have failed at it.
It's got to be hard.
It's very hard. It's especially when you don't pay them a salary; they're paid on commission. So, you bring in revenue, you get paid revenue. Like, but we pay big revenue. We pay big commissions, like more than the industry standard.
Yeah, so nobody's going to do that job who can't take responsibility for themselves, dude.
And you get a lot of people that are used, you know, nothing against these people at all. Like, most of the working middle class works a 9 to 5. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
Right.
if it makes you happy, that's all that matters at the end of the day. As long as you're happy. But I find...
I get it. I value the time card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you're an entrepreneurial guy. You do all kinds of stuff, the stress and the... Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I wish I could just clock out today?
Yeah.
And that's not just talking about a physical thing. That's an emotional, psychological thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you have a job where you can clock out and it's not your problem, it's not... Obviously, people like me, you don't think that's a fair trade because you're working for somebody else's vision.
Mm-hmm.
You're working for somebody else's success, somebody else's dream. And if you're an outstanding employee, you know, I'm not saying this is wrong for anybody. It just doesn't work for people like me and you.
Right.
Like, I want to be doing my vision, sharing my vision. I want people to help me with what my dreams are.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, like I said, most people they're so locked into the golden handcuffs that, you know, they don't know what to go do. Like, they don't know how to get out of their situation.
It's hard. Definitely. I don't blame them. Yeah, it is hard.
But like I said, I mean, nothing against these. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a job. Like, I used to have a job. I did that shit forever.
Hell yeah.
But I've always wanted more. Like,
Something different.
yeah, like, I don't think, like, spending 60 years in the job market working 60, 70 hours a week, that's not living. That's like
Not for you, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, you're building someone else's dream with those hours and getting paid a very small amount of value versus what you could actually really bring in value somewhere else. and get paid more money for it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, in this country anyway, the entrepreneurial spirit's still alive, and the resources that's possible here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an opportunity that I definitely couldn't pass up. Being the master of my own universe, even if it's failing, it's still me.
Yeah, it's still me. Like, I want...
It's because of me. It's not because of somebody I don't know in some other room deciding my future.
Exactly. That was the one, probably the... outside the financials, that was the biggest hang up for me, was that someone else could determine my financial future with one decision. If they don't fucking like me that day, you're gone.
Yeah.
Like, there goes your money down the drain. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like that feeling. Like, people think...
Or even they could just make a mistake and fucking ruin the business.
Right.
Which is fine. It happens. Shit happens. But it'd be way better if you did it to yourself than if somebody else did it to you, man. That's the way I look at it.
If I'm not going to make it, I want it to be because it's my fault.
Yeah.
I didn't put the work in. So I'm in my situation because of my decisions and where I'm at.
Yeah. Could you imagine a worse fate than doing an awesome job, putting your heart into something for like 30 fucking years, and then some assholes on the board make poor decisions and destroy the company?
Yep.
Nothing to do with you.
Mm-mm.
Just wasted all of that talent.
And people look at these jobs like as security. Like, it gives them this secure feeling. And I was always the opposite. I never felt secure in a job. Yeah, I was making pretty decent money working in a factory at Caterpillar for 8 years. You know, decent money. You know, that's all a matter of perspective. But I never felt safe there.
I think a lot of people do. I think I agree with you. Like, well, it's not something to agree or disagree with, but I feel the same way as you. I don't feel secure in a big, giant bureaucracy ran by other people.
Mm-mm.
I feel really insecure. Like, I don't even know what's happening here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're just showing up every day hoping the doors are going to unlock for you.
Yeah, right? True. All right, I got to take a pee break. All right, let's do another beer.
Yeah.
Blue Moon Summer Beer, Belgian White.
I love Blue Moon.
Do you?
I do.
That was a good pick then.
A lot of people are against Blue Moon. It's a bitch beer, I guess. But
oh, yeah.
I guess I'm a bitch.
Everybody has to decide now if they're for or against everything.
Yeah, they got to
notice
take
that?
sides, yeah.
I don't give a shit.
As long as their team wins, that's all they care about.
That's craziness. You know what it reminds me of? Everything I've ever read about, like, Greek warnings of consorting with the crowd or the mob or going to the games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just all write about everything to be weary of. And we do all of it now. Like, it's our fucking job. Like, that's all we do is not heed any of those warnings. We do the opposite. Oh, we're silly. Gosh. So, yeah, I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting to do a official podcast.
Yeah. You got a red light on?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So, I have a theme, a general theme
Okay.
I want to ask, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, I like to sort of dig into what life is like for people that with an entrepreneurial spirit like yours, like mine, like so many people I know. It's just a different kind of person. And I think people are super interested in that. Like, how do you get to be doing your own thing all the time? Like, and what's like your regular shit look like? Let me give you an example. Like, well, the reason we know each other is because, well, it's weird because we've always known each other,
Mm-hmm.
but we're always crossing paths at some mutual interest.
Yeah.
And neither one of us have ever had too much time to spend a lot of time together because we're always so engaged in some kind of interest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super interesting to me. Like, we both rode motorcycles like idiots when we were young. We both built up on hot cars, and you were into dancing when I opened a dance club, so I saw you there. And then we both got into trading.
Yep.
Like, But you're always into these things. You always have these interests, and you're always actually changing your life to do them and go after them and make something of them. So, like, if anybody, the 9 to 5 people we're talking about that live in a much different reality, what would you say to them about your life? What's it like?
Now, present day, it's pretty smooth, man. Like, I'm super lucky, like, to be in the position I'm in, because my office is 8 feet from my bed. I work from home, which isn't for everybody. Some people can't get motivated to work from home. Like, that was a concern for me when I started doing recruiting. I went to the office a lot in the beginning to learn from my partner. And I was so used to leaving the house to go do work. So I continued down that path driving to Lafayette. But over time, it's like what I was doing could be perfectly done at home and save the money on gas. So that's what I did. I started working from home a lot. So, excuse me. I really only put in, to keep my pipeline, the ball rolling, in our business, I probably put maybe 25 hours a week in. But that's working every single day. That's working Monday through Sunday. I have such a routine. I get up, I go grab my coffee, I sit down on my computer, I grab my emails, and I start plugging away at recruiting.
And you're probably very efficient at it now.
Very efficient at it now. In the beginning, there was a bunch of stumbling.
Right. I can relate to you on that. I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
I want you to get back to it. But, like, I'm sort of struggling with that right now. Like, I'm taking on new interests and stuff. But I've gotten, with our lifestyle, the way it works is you're pushed to be efficient.
Yep.
And I got to the point recently to where I'm super efficient at these things I'm doing. I can do them in 25-ish hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
It used to take me, 50.
Yep.
Before that, I was doing 60. Before that, I was doing 80. So I'm still doing the same quantity and bottom line work at 25 that I was at 80 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't change the fact that I feel guilty that I don't work 80 hours a week.
I know. I'm right there with you. Like,
I still struggle with just not doing something.
It's like...
Is that the curse of our lifestyle?
I think so. I think I think that's something that will never go away.
Really?
Yeah.
I just started smoking cigars.
Oh, really?
Just because it takes fucking forever and I can't do anything other than that. So I'm not even sure I probably still don't even enjoy it, but I'm going to sit here. I'm going to learn how to enjoy this fucking thing for a period of time where I don't do anything. It sucks.
Yeah, it's like you were saying, it took a lot of work to be able to be as efficient, to be able to get the same amount of results you can do at 25 hours that you did at 80. But now it's like, I look at it as, well, what if I did put 50 hours a week in?
That's the other side.
Would
right?
I double my income? Like, since I'm so efficient now at what I do, like...
And is it necessary?
It isn't necessary.
Because there's a lot more types of success to work on than money, right?
Well, yeah, because I could work 70 hours a week and probably knock down, whatever.
I'm sure. Well, the way you could probably cross $1 million a year regularly if you really put your headstone to it.
Yeah, I mean...
But that wouldn't be worth it. Right,
exactly. Like, how much is your time worth? Your free time. And that's what I really enjoy, because I can literally, like today, I mean, it's Thursday at 1:30. Like, at any time I can...
And we're drinking beer talking.
Yeah. I can pack my shit up.
This is the American dream.
I'm done working for the day. No, I don't have to go ask somebody if I can take a vacation day. Like, that's all on me.
That's the great part.
Mm-hmm.
But what seems weird when I talk to people that don't understand, they think it's all good like that. They don't understand one very important thing, that's really difficult to not have anybody telling you what to do. It's really difficult to be successful. You can't imagine the pressure of having to decide what to do. Out of the trillions of possibilities of things you could decide to do,
it's very hard to be self-motivated.
Yeah. Well, to even figure out what it is you should be doing.
And know what, right. Like, because you can get to the point where you feel busy, but are you productive?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's absolutely right.
Like,
You could
what
work your
you're
ass off
doing-
and never go anywhere.
Right. What you're doing going to put dollars in your pocket at the end of the day? And if that answer is no, then you should probably change your strategy or your focus of what you're doing in your business.
That's right. That's right. I do that. I didn't think that up. That's a pretty common strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But like I schedule every moment of my life on a calendar, including time for spontaneity and free time and creative
Mm-hmm.
time and all that. But every 6 weeks or so, I'll redo my schedule
Mm-hmm.
because you wouldn't want to keep the same one forever. It means you're not moving.
Right.
So like I'm always pushing myself a little bit. But one thing I always do is I priority list out everything on my schedule. Like what's the biggest priority to the least? And then clearly that's an emotional list.
Yep.
And then I detach my emotions and I reorganize the priority list based on off of creating value or profitability.
Yes.
And it's crazy how different the lists are. How much time you can walk right into wasting on
Oh,
shit
yeah.
because it's serving your feelings.
Yep.
That's really what it's doing.
It's giving you that satisfied, like, oh, I got this, this, and this, and this done today.
Yeah.
But
right.
I didn't make any money today.
Yeah. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can't do that very long.
No. No, that's probably, it's a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, I got control of my time, and, I make pretty good money.
So how do
I
you
can
do
what
it?
I want. Huh?
So how do you do it? How do you decide what to do every day and motivate yourself?
So,
Because you work 7 days a week.
yep. First of all, I'm very money motivated. Some people aren't that way. Like I talk to candidates a lot. They're like, money's not everything. Like I'd rather have some better work-life balance or more days off or first making an extra 25 grand a year, which is understandable.
Sure.
But for me, I love having my time, but time costs a lot of money.
Yeah, and you have future goals you want to do with money.
Yes.
That
Yep.
helps you be motivated for
Yep.
money
I
because
want-
you have something in mind to spend it on.
Yeah, and it's not not meticulous, but it's not what's the word I'm looking for? Like stuff.
Oh yeah, you're not trying to buy a Bugatti.
No.
You want to invest in something to create lots of value in your industry.
Yeah,